Hello, Jane. Erica, I just moved you to panelist. Good morning, everyone. Well, thank you for coming on. We'll wait till noon to get started. Hopefully you can hear the light jazz music playing. Oh, there we go. Welcome, June. I have moved you to be a panelist.
Hello.
Hello. Is your audio working well?
It is.
Okay, great.
Hi, June.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. And June, I have about 5 or 6 minutes of just kind of brief intros, and then if you need me, if you want to share anything, I can stop sharing. You'll be able to share your screen as a panelist.
Yeah, I'm going to share.
Okay, great. So just let me know when I'll stop share, and then Erica, I can reshare for the ending portion. How's your semester going, June?
Good. Yeah, very good.
Week 4 already.
I know. It's amazing, right?
And then you have your, are you still mostly remote with your full-time work?
Oh, yes. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually hoping that I stay remote now.
Okay.
I'm
Much
loving
closer.
this. I'm loving this. So, you know, I mean, I was doing it mostly on Fridays anyway, but, you know, I actually find that I'm more productive this way. I don't have that hour drive one way hour drive. So I was on the road 2 hours a day. I think I was sharing this with Erica earlier when we were talking even before the semester started. So yeah, everything's going pretty well. And I've been talking to a lot of business people, you know, from a lot of different companies, and they've been telling me the same thing that, you know, they're really kind of enjoying this type of work. And a lot of companies are deciding now that, you know, since we have the technology, why not?
Mhm.
Erica, you're not back in the office, are you?
No, I'm not.
She's sitting outside near the lion statue.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to use a background like that too, but I'm on a smaller
Professor
surface.
Goldstein, I'm going to promote you as well. All right, we have our speakers. Hello and welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good.
I want to get the lion statue thing. You need to send me that so I can add that to my arsenal. I like that.
I will send it to you.
We have a couple more minutes. Justin, I was explaining, I have some few just intro slides to do. Hi, I'm Margie Batchelor.
All right, nice to meet you.
For the first time. And then I'll send it to June and then yourself. If you have any slides to share, you're a panelist, so you'll be able to share any slides you have. If there's no slides and you're just talking, that's great too.
Yeah, I just talk.
That's great.
Wherever the conversation goes, that's where I take it.
You know, we're all here to learn about this.
Some people like it, some people don't, but that's just me.
This fascinating new field.
Absolutely. It's literally changing every single day.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just listened to it was Life is Good, you know, that t-shirt company, and how they've
Yes.
completely gone to like this real-time supply chain, so they have no inventory, so they're changing their t-shirt slogans, like they can change over the whole production in like 48 hours and like get a whole new bunch of, you know, stuff out to everybody with like whatever's going on in the world or different things to motivate people. So you know,
Yes.
a 6 to 8 month kind of production inventory cycle to, you know, 72 hours. It's just fascinating.
Yes. That's that supply chain agility. I think Zara kind of, you know, created that within the retail industry and getting out like seasonal designs and things like that.
Mhm. Well, welcome attendees. I have 11:59. We'll give it another minute or so to everyone to log on. Hopefully you can see some of our slides here and see our panelists. Welcome to Penn State virtually, wherever you are around the state. I can see attendees, so I can see that we're reaching all the different corners of the Commonwealth here today, so it's really exciting. Yes, we are recording this session as well. So for those of you that want to send this out. Well, I have 12:01, so to be respectful of everybody's time on this beautiful fall-like Friday afternoon, it's time for pumpkin spice and candy corns and to change the seasons, even though we're remote, and, you know, look at the falling leaves outside of our windows. So welcome everyone. I'm Dr. Margaret Batchelor with Penn State Continuing Education. I'm located in southeastern Pennsylvania in the western suburbs of Philadelphia at the Brandywine campus. But I'm really excited to work with all my statewide colleagues around the Commonwealth to bring out our Future of Work webinar series to all our different constituents around the state. This is our second monthly adventure to do this virtual webinar, and we're excited to see participants, because I'm able to see participants from corners of Pittsburgh to the Endless Mountain region to southeastern Pennsylvania and up into the Erie area. So we're really excited to have the geographic span that we have today. Just to kind of introduce our speakers, and I'm really excited to hear from both of them. The topic for this month's webinar is an understanding of business analytics and enterprise resource planning. So we'll be hearing from June Wright, who is Senior Analytics Analyst at Air Products, and she's head of the Philadelphia chapter of SAP users, more commonly known as ASUG. And we also have Justin Goldston, who's an assistant teaching professor and coordinator of the Project and Supply Chain Management academic program at Penn State Wilkes-Barre. For those of you that maybe this is your first intro to statewide continuing education, we are a nexus of 21 campus locations, and we seek to engage learners throughout the lifetime for professional development and personal enrichment. We work to partner with our communities and industries locally to leverage the vast resources of Penn State. And we offer credit programming, non-credit certificates, customized training, really to focus on strengthening the workforce, increasing competitiveness, enhancing entrepreneurship, and stimulating economic growth. One of the key strategic planning pillars at Penn State is driving economic development, and we are a key conduit into making sure that the land grant mission and the great subject matter expertise of Penn State gets out into our community. So just some different information about our vast, larger mission here of working with our land grant partners around the Commonwealth. And really what we're kind of focusing on this series with 2020 and Penn State's new strategic plan, but also in the COVID-19 economic environment, is really seeking community responsive portfolio development and working on getting the best and most timely information we can to our community partners and industry sectors to move the workforce forward. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our amazing speakers here today. We'll start with June Wright and then go and hear from Professor Goldston. Also, June Wright is an instructor as well with our supply chain and enterprise resource planning programs here at Penn State as well. So both of these speakers bring vast academic and industry experience today. And then after we hear from our speakers, we have plenty of time for Q&A. I'll be monitoring either the Q&A or the chat function. So feel free to put in any information that you need. And then we'll wrap up the webinar timely to just close out with some information on some upcoming programs in statewide continuing education. So June, what I will do is stop share and hand it over to you.
All righty, thank you. One moment
Welcome.
while I bring up my screen. And let me know if you can see my slide. Yes? Okay. Hello and welcome. My name is June Wright, and as Margaret mentioned, I currently work at a global manufacturing company in their IT department, and I work in the area in that IT department in advanced analytics as a senior analytical analyst. In my job, I work across all the business functions, and I work with all the business-driven information systems, which I'll talk about. I mainly work right now with the data from these business information systems, converting the data that we extract from those, and we transform them into the data into meaningful and useful business solutions that they can use for, whatever kind of questions they need answered. Before that, I have quite an extensive time working with, starting out with the IT things like Excel and your basic, Word and PowerPoint and the databases, and doing all the programming, working all the way up to the new enterprise resource planning system. So I have a number of years working, and I've seen the environment for work, for our future work, change very, very rapidly. And the problems and the challenges with businesses right now that I see is remaining competitive. And throughout that entire time, I wasn't stagnant myself, nor any of my colleagues or the people that I work in a lot of the different areas. We've all had to remain competitive along with our business partners that we're now working with. And as Margaret mentioned, I'm also an adjunct faculty member at Penn State, and I do teach several of the courses, as was mentioned, not only in supply chain, but also in business processes, which is really a foundation right now for preparing ourselves and our careers, is understanding the businesses, because the businesses need us. And I'm also an alumni of Penn State myself. In addition, as was mentioned, I'm also the chair of the ASUG, America's SAP User Group, for the Philadelphia and surrounding area. Now, ASUG is the world's largest network of business professionals seeking to expand their careers as well, and also gain the knowledge, support, updates, innovation, and also best practices and perspectives using an enterprise resource planning system, the world's largest, which is SAP. And I'll talk about that in the next coming slides. But this is also an enterprise resource planning system, along with all those other tools that we're using. They're business driven, meaning that the businesses now have these tools at hand, along with their business functions and their business processes, to become competitive and remain competitive. And so what that means for us and for our careers is to not only understand the business and the way they're changing and they're re-engineering themselves, but also to get to know the tools that they're using to become competitive and remain competitive in this world as it's changing. When I was asked to participate in this webinar, I was really delighted, because everyone, myself included, we all need to work on our knowledge, our skills, and our abilities to remain competitive and prepare our careers for the future. We all need to innovate right along with the businesses and our companies that we're working for, either we're working for right now or we're looking to become a part of in the future. And the reason that we need to prepare and we need to survive is because that we're becoming this digital world, and businesses and people are not now limited globally. I work for a global company that we're around the clock, you know, working with each other, and we're working seamlessly together because we can stay connected virtually. The businesses now, especially in this time, we've noticed this was a great challenge for a lot of businesses, and many of them are moving online, and they're using the tools, these business-driven IT tools, to move online. So the businesses need to remain competitive, and likewise in our careers, we also need to remain competitive. So what's the urgency? So the urgency right now is businesses need speed, and they especially needed speed right now to adapt to this new environment, which is not going to change when we come back to the new normal. Businesses needed to speed up, they needed to innovate, they needed to be creative. Companies, for example, need to obtain materials and products, and I'm sure that Professor Goldston will talk more about the supply chain aspect of it. They need to sell products and services, and they need to do it faster, smarter, with greater innovation than their competitors. And how are they doing this? They're doing it with people like ourselves, and they're also doing it with IT tools. And that means enterprise resource planning systems, but also with a variety of tools to connect virtually, to move online, to reach their customers, to reach their suppliers. So the new world is value driven, and it's value driven business. The good news is that the businesses are obtaining the tools in this digital transformation. They're using them, they're learning how to use them, and they also, though, need people. Companies need to be flexible, we need to be flexible. They need people that are innovative. They need people that are going to bring value to their business, just like those new business-driven IT tools. So, you know, it's kind of like continuous learning. It has been for me. I didn't start out with this world knowing all these tools and what the business needs. I had to learn it myself, and we do that in a variety of ways. And one way is through education and learning about the business processes and the tools. So the future of work, the basic point here is that technologies are changing. You have, for example, a couple examples. You have the Internet of Things. So you have sensors and all different types of your products that you're using. For example, even just think of your refrigerators that are now telling us, what we need to buy. Even things like smart yoga mats or thermostats that you can control. Even when suppliers, let's say so some of these larger companies that are delivering products and services, they need to understand exactly where their products are and how they need to get it to the consumers, or what products that they need. And they're using this technology tools to change that. This is what I'm seeing, and I do work, like I had mentioned earlier, I work with a lot of different professionals, even with my volunteer role in ASUG, and we're all talking about the challenges that our businesses are having. And not only that, but if you see up on the slide, I talk about sustainability. Right now, the biggest thing for companies is to also use those tools to try to measure emissions from factories and stuff like that. So no matter what you want to do as far as jobs with, let's say, human resources, with finance, with marketing, even if you're interested in environmental, all of this is something that comes right down to the businesses, what they need, and the IT tools that it's making it easier for the businesses to succeed. A little word then, as I move on, is I do especially work with enterprise systems and business applications, but all of this you can't do without understanding the business and the information that's being stored and processed in a business. Enterprise resource planning is the integration of these business processes to collect, store, manage data and activities. So in order to be successful in this environment, people need to understand the modern business environments and their processes, and how some of these tools like an enterprise resource system also processes this. So companies that you either work for currently or will be seeking future employment, you'll be perhaps running into these tools. And this isn't just large companies, even smaller companies are using technologies such as these. So you don't have to be, what I really do want to emphasize is you don't have to be in IT. You need to, no matter what job that you're in or you're striving for, you need to understand the new tools that are out there, and you need to understand the business processes. And both, though, for large or small companies, this is going to help you gain some knowledge, skills, and abilities in this new world. And I often say, and I often hear it said in a lot of the professionals that I work with, and a lot of the businesses, is that they're looking for people that are collecting all these tools in their toolbox. So all of these bits of knowledge that you're getting, not only from formal education, but also from, listening to podcasts or webcasts, is kind of understanding how the businesses are going nowadays and what it is that businesses need to be successful in this environment. So, I encourage everybody, even myself, that I'm constantly adding tools to my toolbox. I am constantly learning. I'm constantly even growing myself because the businesses need our help. They need our help to succeed, and they're looking for people that are willing to continuously learn in this new, really, really fast changing environment, to not only for their employees to be successful in themselves, but also they become an asset to the businesses themselves. So we need basically digital skills for the digital age. And again, I am not saying that we have to be IT professionals. I am, but I do know that when we started to go into this direction, I've got a long history in this, is that we were using employees from no matter what area that they were in the business. And I mentioned human resources, I mentioned finance, marketing, sales and distribution. Whatever area you're in, you're going to be more successful if you kind of understand the future of work and the skills that you need. You need to be an asset to the company that you're working for. You need to have the detailed knowledge of the types of information systems that exist to support decision making and business processes. You need to understand that machines right now are rapidly evolving the tools that they're using, so you need to add tools as well to your knowledge. So people need to be the same. We have intelligent technologies out there, and we need a skilled workforce to support the business processes, mission, and goals. And those today are speed, agility, moving things to the market, moving things online. And it's a great time. It's a wonderful time to be, in the career force and expand your skills and not become stagnant. You need to grow and continue. It's continual learning. And even when you're in a business and you're looking, seek those challenges to move beyond what you're doing. Ask questions, because right now more than ever, the businesses need to bring together the technology, us, the people, to support their business needs. So I just kind of wanted to highlight some of the types of careers that I see. And remember that I am an adjunct instructor for Penn State, but I do work full time in this area. And I also am the chair for, an organization that is filled with, career professionals, not just in IT. We're business analysts, we're in finance, business, supply chain, analytics, human resources, project management, marketing, management of information systems, and even business intelligence. The last thing I just want to say is that technologies are shaping the businesses nowadays. Their business processes are being re-engineered, and technologies are shaping our future. So with that, everyone, thank you. And I don't know, Margaret, do we have questions now, or would you like us to wait till the end?
I don't see any questions yet in the chat, so we can move ahead with Professor Goldston and kind of regroup. Thank you, June, for such a great overview of the skills that are needed, the careers that are out there. I really want to look up that sensor in my yoga mat, because I need my yoga mat to yell at me every morning and say, move a lot faster and get better with these poses. So didn't know.
And you know what? That yoga mat thing, I kind of researched that a little bit. Those smart yoga mats now, they can even measure the amount of calories you're burning on those. So see, all of these sensors and all of these tools, it's amazing what we're going into now.
Yeah, we need the yoga mat to measure our calories. Then we need the smart fridge to say, I see you're reaching for that cookie. Don't do that. You just did yoga. So things are going to get interesting. Well, thank you, June.
Sure.
Yeah, so feel free to put some questions in chat. I know we have a wide range of age groups here, so I think that I'm really glad we're recording this because I think a lot of my Career Center colleagues, this is such a great overview of careers that undergrads at Penn State could get in these fields. But now I'm going to hand it over to Professor Goldston. So I don't know if you would like to stop share, June,
I
and
will.
take it away.
All right, thank you. I don't have a PowerPoint. I don't have a fancy PowerPoint. I just like to have discussions. Um, I would like to thank everyone for attending this session. And what I want to talk about is that as we have seen the business landscape changing over the last 6 months or so, the curriculum within higher education is also changing. We are literally rewriting a book on supply chain management because we almost have to rewrite the book. In that we have seen a increase in automation. When our warehouses were shut down in the U.S. for 2 months, we've seen a rise in industrial automation. We've seen a rise in robotics within distribution and manufacturing facilities. So we've been talking about that for a number of years, and we were somewhat forced to fast track the implementation of these technologies. I know that I speak with a lot of organizations. I speak with a lot of individuals within the workforce in that, robotics will take jobs, but I highly disagree with that in that we need individuals to oversee those robotics. The robotics will only back up. The robotics will only assist those people within those facilities. They're going to make their jobs more effective. They're going to make their jobs more efficient. And for those repetitive tasks, for those roles within the organization, now those people they will be taken off of those jobs, but now they're going to be moved to more strategic roles within the organization. Okay. Now, this is going to lead to employee empowerment. This is going to lead to increased innovation within the organization. And another point that I want to make in terms of the supply chain industry is that I believe it was Gallup that said that within the next 3 years, 40% of the industrial workforce is going to retire. So we have to, and another point is that those new entrants into the market don't want to work in a factory. And that comes from my experience where I have supply chain students that are looking for more of those roles within ERP systems. They're looking for the business analyst roles. They're looking for those roles that include technology. Okay, so because we're going to be struggling with replacing those individuals that are leaving the workforce due to retirement, we have to rely on automation. We have to rely on robotics. We have to rely on analytics to run the organization. Now, I did a interview with the Association of Supply Chain Management CEO, Abe Ashkenazi, for one of my courses. And he said he made two staggering statements in that he said for every 6 roles within supply chain management, there was only one qualified candidate. And he also said that by 2025, there will be a shortfall of 2 million jobs. The most important statement he made was that was pre-COVID. That was before COVID rocked every single industry and every single supply chain for every company. So now that those numbers could probably be doubled, if not tripled. because now organizations have an increased awareness of the supply chain industry. They have an increased awareness of the importance of supply chain management and the importance of technology, because organizations see that ERP applications, such as within the classes that June teaches, is going to increase the visibility, the collaboration, and communication among business partners and among departments within an organization. So organizations that run SAP, for example, they're global companies. So they have facilities all around the world. I did consulting work for Intel. We did the implementation. And we started implementation in Folsom, California. And we were integrating with sites in Poland, sites in China, sites in the UK, sites in Australia. And we had a modification where it's called multi-site. And I think SAP has similar, all ERP applications have similar functions, where essentially if I perform a transaction within Folsom, that has to be transacted in real time to Poland, right? So this was pre-cloud. So this it was more of a project than it is now. Now that all of the providers have moved to cloud, you know, that kind of expedite that process, makes that process easier. But I will also say that where the industry is going in terms of ERP applications, in terms of technology, in terms of visibility, is this analytics piece. And there is a difference between data analytics and business analytics. You know, so we need data analysts. So the data analysts, and within the project and supply chain management program at Penn State, we take what I refer to as a mixed methods approach, where some supply chain programs will take that qualitative approach where they look at case studies and they use critical thinking and they use practical application within that program. That's how that program is kind of the foundation of that program. Where you have other supply chain programs that's very, very quantitative in nature, right? It's statistics driven. It's very heavily math driven. But with at Penn State, we blend the two because you need that blend, because you need that empirical experience, that qualitative empirical experience. But you also need the quantitative, the statistics, so that it's measurable, so that you can create simulations, you can create models. And you will use tools such as SAP to create those simulations and create those models so that you can make those managerial decisions, right? So within the difference, let me back up and say the difference between the data analyst and the business analyst is that data analyst is the one that crunches the numbers. It's the one that writes those algorithms, you know, for those simulations. And within the program, we will introduce you to those tools such as R, the tools such as Python, the tools such as Tableau, because you can integrate all those tools into SAP, right? And you know, although the technical aspects of those tools are within like a computer science program, a master's in data analytics program, we introduce you to those because as future leaders, you need to be able to effectively have conversations with those data analysts, you know, with those individuals that write the algorithms, that write the code, you know, and so that you can confidently create use cases, you know, for those models within supply chain management. Perfect example. Artificial intelligence was just integrated with ERP systems last year. You can say a stretch 2 years ago, but successfully implemented and used last year. So now the organizations that have developed those algorithms, those artificial intelligence algorithms in their forecasting tools, COVID hits. There's no COVID algorithms out there, right? Now we have to work with those data analysts to say, okay, how can we develop these models, these use cases for a COVID algorithm, if you will, right? Because we know that we have these artificial spikes in demand because users could not, or customers could not get product. So they were just placing orders for anyone who actually sells that product. Toilet paper. I was placing rain checks for every single Walmart in my area for toilet paper. So I got artificial spikes all over Pennsylvania. So you have to, but that's where the artificial intelligence essentially comes into play, where you have to say, okay, because of this data, because we have all this data, now we can see these patterns. And now we can identify those artificial spikes. And that's where essentially where a data analyst comes in and creates that particular simulation, or that particular algorithm, I should say. Now, a business analyst will look at that algorithm and say, oh, I see this forecast, but if I'm looking at the data, I think this is an artificial spike. Because I see the same customer place an order with these 10 Walmarts for 10 cases of toilet paper. So you are using the data, and I will say that data is everywhere. You know, it's not the problem. The problem is not is not getting the data. The problem is having that clean data. The problem is having the individuals that make decisions understand how to interpret the data. And another important point that leaders within organizations have told me is that, you know, these data analysts, they're brilliant, can just create algorithms on a weekend, but it's very difficult to have them interpreted to them, to someone that is not technical in nature, right? So within the program, within the certification programs, we teach those soft skills. You know, we teach those soft skills in that I always say that you don't have to have that leadership title to lead. And that is one of the most important competencies to a business analyst, because a business analyst needs to influence the employees of the organization so that they can collaborate. They need to influence the leaders of the organization. So to say that this algorithm is telling me this, I think that we should do this, right? You have to influence the leader of an organization based on the data that you see. And that's another point where, you know, that's where those visualizations within Tableau come into play, those visualizations within Python come into play. And that's why we stress those tools, because they are going to be important to your success within your careers. So that's what we're doing within the program. Another push that we're making within the program, within the project and supply chain management program, is to get more women in this discipline, in this field. There's not enough women in this field. There's not enough minorities in this field. I'm actually delivering the keynote at the Women Leaders in Supply Chain conference based in Singapore next week. I had to do it from here, unfortunately, but I'm delivering a keynote, you know, to get more women in supply chain management. You know, and that's a push that we're making as an industry. That's a push that you know, we're making here at Penn State. I just had a phone call with the Association of Supply Chain Management this morning, talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, and the projects and the research that's being done with one of the largest associations, you know, within a discipline. You know, so it's one thing that I'm passionate about, and it's one thing where I always tell people you have to walk the talk. And there's a lot of talking and discussing, but not enough doing. And that's one thing that I encourage you all from a from a business analytics perspective, where I can pull the data, and it's like ERP applications. A lot of ERP applications fail, not because of the product, not because of SAP, it's because of the people. And it's exactly what June talked about. The people are the most complex piece to an implementation, to any project. And you have to have those skills, you have to build those competencies to effectively collaborate, to effectively deliver those solutions. And I think that's very important. And I think that, on the surface, we say that, the SAP certification, the SAP classes is all technical, but there's a leadership aspect that's very important. It's the collaboration aspect that's very important, because without those, nothing happens. Because I say, whenever a company, and I consulted in ERP applications for 15 years. I consulted with Intel. I consulted with Blue Buffalo. Blue Buffalo I started with Blue Buffalo, they were $10 million. They just got sold to General Mills 2 years ago for $8 billion. Right? And their competitive advantage was supply chain management. And the interesting piece, for a good 6 years, Blue Buffalo did not touch a single kibble of pet food. They outsourced everything within their supply chain, right? And then they eventually they got so large, they eventually built their own supply chain network. But because of their supply chain innovation, increasing visibility within their supply chain networks, they were able to be a leader within the pet food industry. They came out of nowhere. And now you still see their commercials almost every single day. It's through supply chain management. And now who's the biggest company in the world? One of the biggest companies in the world. Amazon. They sold books and became the largest organization through supply chain management. Amazon saved the world in March and April through supply chain management. And it's through the technology that they were able to do that. So that's why this discipline is so important. That's why this class is going to be so important, because Amazon became a differentiator from data analytics. It became a differentiator from artificial intelligence. It became a differentiator from, identifying those patterns where, you simply say, okay, I'm going to buy this from Amazon. Oh, other customers bought this. Dang, that looks good. Let me get that one too. That's artificial intelligence and finding patterns. It's a simple algorithm. This is data analytics. So if you will, and that's what we talk about in almost every single class. We take those use cases. We take those use cases from the organizations that you all know, so that you can actually relate to it, and it makes it more understandable, and it makes it more transferable. So you don't have to be in manufacturing. That can be transferable to healthcare. That can be transferable to hospitality. That can be transferable to retail. And that's what we do in these certification programs. That's what we do in the project and supply chain management program. And I would also like to say that the project and supply chain management program works closely with continuing education. I'm on the phone with the team almost weekly, because it's continuous. We walk the talk. It's continuous improvement. We say, okay, what's going on in the industry? How has COVID impacted this curriculum? And we make adjustments. And I would say that Penn State is like no other institution where, we're agile. We are adjusting to the industry. We're changing the curriculum based on the industry. And I think that that's a differentiator for you, not for Penn State. That's going to be a differentiator for you, because I always say that you're going to be able to learn it today and apply tomorrow. You know, and I think that that to June's point, if you can and that's what I tell my students, if you blend your passion, if you blend the practice of supply chain management, and if you blend the technology, that's going to be your personal differentiator. We're going to give you the two. We're going to give you the supply chain management. We're going to give you technology, but you got to find your passion, right? So whether it be corporate social responsibility, which is mine, whether it be diversity and inclusion, whether it be sustainability, you have to find your passion and you blend it. That's all I got to say.
Wow, that's a lot. Thank you. It looks like we had two kind of questions, comments in chat that, you know, I'd love to have June and Justin take a look at. One is just about, you know, this current, you know, skills gap of, you know, more jobs than there are people, especially in, you know, kind of rural areas of the state. So any advice you have to get manufacturers aligned with humans, and kind of also a related question of, you know, that critical link between, you know, human skills and soft skills and technical skills, and how both of you, either June or Justin, feel as though supply chain and, you know, the types of programs that you teach in could bridge the gap.
Okay, I'll start. So I think that I'm going to start with the machines and leadership. I think everything that we talk about, it comes down to education. And another point that I forgot to mention is that the reason a lot of organizations get resistance is because leaders do not explain the why. You know, I shared an example in a class last night, supply chain management class last night, where I went to Ohio. It was like a $15 million company. They implemented an ERP application on their own. They called me in and said, nobody's using the system. I walk into the warehouse, they're unionized. I walk into the warehouse, all desktops broken out. Because, and the root cause was because the owner of the company said, you have to use this. We have this system, you have to use this technology. Little training. These people have been working with the company for 20 years. They're fine with writing down and walking over and typing everything into and giving it to the supervisor in his office and walking back. Now, in 4 days, I was able to go to each department, explain the why, and explain how it's going to be beneficial to their roles. It's going to make them more efficient. And because they were paid based on piece rate, so essentially what you get paid based on how much you produce. I said, how long does it take you to walk back and forth every day? Okay, an hour, hypothetically. I said, you take that hour, and once you produce, all you do is this. Back to work. So if I tell an hourly worker that they're going to make more money, it's a sale. Like I said, take 4 days, and they've been struggling with this for like 2 months. So I think the most important piece is explaining the why, in terms of digital transformations, in terms of ERP implementations, in terms of, that's just organizational change. That's any project within the organization. The most important piece is explaining the why. June, you have anything to add?
No, thank you. I really agree with what you're saying. What I've seen is that, there might be a resistance, for some of the workers, and we've have some in a lot of the professionals and the companies that I'm, associated with. There might be resistance, but with all these tools and the technologies and this digital transformation, even with companies, the one thing is that you want to remain competitive. The companies want to remain competitive, and you do too. And remember that the things that Professor Goldson mentioned is that if you free up your time from the old business processes that you were doing and give the knowledge, skills, and abilities to use some of the new one, you actually free your time up. The company frees their time up to do more value-added work. And so, I've taught very, very early on, even before the ERP systems, which is the Enterprise Resource Planning System. That was my background in training IT, and there was a lot of resistance. For example, I was just even with teachers, they were doing their grading regularly in a grade book and figuring out the grades, and I was tasked to teach them simple Excel. And there was a resistance. They didn't want to do it. They liked their books. But once I showed them how very easily they could calculate their grades very, very quickly, just putting in numbers, it was amazing. So it freed up their time to provide additional value-added, work, and free themselves up from doing those manual tasks that they were doing before. So that was just one example from a long time ago. But remember that the technology is changing, dramatically now. So if the manufacturing, if they need to invest in their future, they need to remain competitive, because you know what? If they don't move with the times, they are going to lose out, not just with employees, but they're going to lose out on the environment as it's changing.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna continue on with that comment, because John and Hugo kind of somewhat had the same question, in that, how can manufacturers invest in the futures and not just filling jobs today? And I like the way that he asked the question, in that, you're putting lipstick on a pig, right? And that is one thing that I'm looking to push. That is one of my projects. That's one of my initiatives, is to how do I make manufacturing, how do I make supply chain management appealing to high school age kids. I can get, once I get in front of the students at Penn State, they're converted. But how can I get high school age kids interested in supply chain management? I've actually been reaching out to some college students that are trying to get that push. I'm collaborating with them. I'm actually in the early stages of planning out how can we create a supply chain program in high school similar to a STEM program, right? That's the big task. But I think that, so to John's point, how can manufacturers invest? They can provide input, they can provide insights, they can provide case studies, because that's one thing that I do in the programs, where I say, let's collaborate. I say, give me a supply chain problem, I'll make an assignment for you for my class. It's a win-win. They're getting a real life scenario, you're getting free consulting. Right? And now I say that, now I'm trying to take it a step further to say, okay, now let's create a Shark Tank. You create a scenario. My students provide a solution. It's like a Shark Tank. You pick the top students. Now that I gave you free consulting, now you have to get a student internship. That's the deal. So, but I mean, that's some of the, it's the creative things we're trying to do as an institution. But yeah, yes, manufacturers have to invest in the future, and it goes back to tuition reimbursement programs. I think that's the biggest thing in the short term. To John's point, the short term, the biggest thing manufacturers can do is invest in tuition reimbursement programs. So to Hugo's point, I think that education is the key, because like I said, there's many misconceptions in terms of what the technology is going to do and how it's going to impact the supply chain space. So I think that education is the primary tool to increase adoption to the future, because I always tell the future's coming. In most cases, it's already here, and there's no stopping it, because the organizations have to implement it to remain competitive. Artificial intelligence, you have to implement artificial intelligence to remain competitive, without a doubt. Now, it doesn't have to be any kind of complex algorithms, but you have to have some level of artificial intelligence, because your competitors are doing it. And you have to have the individuals. You have to have the individuals with the tools to actually implement that. So that's why we're actually pushing artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, ERP applications in essentially every single class, along with those leadership competencies. Okay.
Well, I feel like I could listen to both of you speak another couple hours here, so we'll have to have you back maybe in a few months to hear what is the continuous future of supply chain. I did want to be respectful to people's time with us closing in on the 1 p.m. hour. So thank you, Professor Wright. Thank you, Justin Goldston. You can find any of the four of us here on LinkedIn. I just wanted to hand the mic over to my colleague, Erica, who is Interim Director of Continuing Education at Penn State Berks, who's just going to kind of connect all the great content from our professors into explaining the offerings that we have here at Penn State in data analytics and supply chain and ERP and all this great future of work competencies.
Thanks, Margie, and thank you to both of our presenters. Some great information was shared today. I just wanted to share a really great benefit that we have here is Penn State University is part of the SAP University Alliance. So this gives our students access to the SAP Learning Hub Academic Edition at a really great discounted rate. So they can get extra hands-on practice and the ability to certify in solutions like S/4HANA, success factors, and more. So this helps students who are have great initiative go out there and take some extra steps to get more experience using things like SAP. So we do offer 2 certificate programs that are related to our ERP topic today. We have a credit option and a non-credit option. The Enterprise Resource Planning with SAP Credit Certificate is a 9-credit certificate, and it focuses on what ERP is and business processes, and then dives deeper into the supply chain processes. And then 30% of the time spent within this program is hands-on using SAP with the SAP GUI that we have access to from being part of the SAP University Alliance. And then that certificate is actually signed by Penn State and SAP, which is a really cool benefit. And then the second program we built is a non-credit program, and it starts with an introduction course providing students a broad understanding of ERP, allowing them to learn the purpose and value of an ERP system to an organization, like June was explaining in the beginning. And then we offer courses such as business analytics and enterprise applications, cloud, advanced ERP simulation, and that can help you customize your learning path. You can go to the next slide if you want, Marge. Okay. So statewide, we have lots of other programs as well to help with professional development. We have certificates in project management, we have cybersecurity, CISSP exam prep. we have lots of other supply chain programs. We have CPIM prep classes, CPSM prep classes. So we do actually have quite a bit now that we offer in supply chain, as well as the project and supply chain management degree program that we have. We also do digital marketing, customer service training. And then with your statewide Penn State locations near you, we can do organized training specifically for your organization in design thinking, strategic planning, team building. We have a great supervision essentials program that we can offer for your company. And it can be embedded within your existing organization's performance management systems as well. So these are great programs that we offer statewide through the campuses. So you can reach out to your local campus or any one of us, and we can help direct you to the best place for you.
Yeah, I think finally too, we just wanted to put in, some information to build awareness of our Invent Penn State system. So in addition to the high quality continuing education programs and degrees, we at the campuses have an Invent Penn State initiative that is helping entrepreneurs, but we're doing a lot more with corporate innovation and entrepreneurship thinking and just different ways to all companies. Everyone's a startup right now. I don't care if you're a 100-year-old company, you're going to have to learn to pivot to a new way of doing business. So at most Penn State campuses, we have locations for small business coaching, corporate retreat spaces. There's some makerspace classes, and it's just another way that we can connect with the land grant mission in the community in kind of the entrepreneurship and innovation space. I did also want to let everybody know that this is one of our monthly Future of Work webinars. So we do have some programs coming up in October and November that are really kind of focused on the human resource aspect of all the changes in employment law, which is getting very interesting with remote work and workplace safety and workplace wellness. So we have some speakers on that, as well as strategic planning and leadership during these very uncertain times, which is, a key fact for all of us to kind of focus on. So I just want to end with, any questions, comments people have. You can find me, Margaret Batcher, on LinkedIn. I know the other 3 panelists are also on LinkedIn, or certainly visit your local Penn State campus and the local website to learn more about all our programs. So any final comments from our panelists? Thank you all for coming. This has been recorded, so I'm happy to send it out to the list of RSVPs, and those of you that want to use this, I think it was a great overview of the field and the careers involved in this field. So I thank everyone for attending today.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.